the core for us, I think, is concerned about how the policies are changed and also who is actually validating the change requests on which basis. Thank you.
First of all, I completely agree with you. And this is the reason why we in SSAC has only developed this flowchart in very general terms. Because what we see is that some of this discussion in the, specifically the ICANN community, to some degree, from our perspective, is unclear whether the discussion is about the policy development process or whether it is about the policy implementation part, or whether it is about the handover of the policy between the policy development and the policy implementer. Who is validating that the policy is clear enough? How do you handle cases where the policy is not clear enough? How do you afterwards audit and validate that the policy implementer was actually following the policy or not? And one thing my vice chair, Jim Galvin, came to me and said that once again, not being a native English-speaking person, I mix up the word objective and subjective, which of course is something that is really important here, that I should not make mistakes about, and I actually did. So let me put on the record that the whole idea is that IANA function, the policy implementer, should do only objective decisions and not subjective decisions. The reason why IETF do have appointed experts is to minimize the pressure and remove subjective decisions from IANA, just to make that clear.
First question I have is, do you envisage, or do we envisage that the same routing process or the same structure of the work will be continued exactly as it is when this stewardship is transferred? Second, currently, without making any judgment, the quality of the actions or work which is done, once it is transferred to the multi-stakeholder, that still we don't know what is it, would you envisage that there might be some period of transitions which may cause some difficulties in the processing of the matters?
The answers to those questions are the ones that we are seeking with the process that we started in London, which means that I am not the individual that are going to respond to those. This community is to respond to those questions. What we believe from the Security and Stability Advisory Committee is that whatever those questions are, our suggestion to the community is to try to explain what the various roles are, for example, and to help that discussion, we are providing this flowchart, which we think is one easy way of, if it is made clear who is doing what, to get good answers to, for example, the questions that you answered.
Whenever we in administrations talk about this, the first thing that comes to mind is security, stability. Is the system going to be rock solid when we go through this transition? And so your inputs are going to, relate directly to what we are going to be saying to our ministers and so on. So.
It's a pretty new thing for SSAC to give a timeline at all. Actually, in the previous document, we tried and we failed miserably. And that's why it's a little bit dangerous to say something like closer than third quarter. But between friends, like if only you listen to what I'm saying, and the rest of you hold your ears, we are actually very close. The documents are very close, and we are going through more or less final editing of the documents, and make sure that everyone in SSAC do feel, as the members of SSAC, do stand behind the text. It's up to everyone reading it to take the whole documents or part of the documents that they think is in favor, like to use the text. It's really important that SSAC members do feel comfortable of the text. So we are as far as in that process, which normally in SSAC can take from a few weeks to maybe a month. It's a little bit difficult because of the summer and holidays and other kind of things. So I would even so, but we are not saying anything more than third quarter, because if it is the case that some individuals do feel a bit uncomfortable, it might take a little bit longer time to shift around text. But it's not the case that we are no longer sort of writing the document, but third quarter is what we are saying.